I have an announcement. This is not a workshop. We're not going to work, and we're definitely not going to shop. Rather, this is an invitation to experience the mystic within. And this little card that was given you was intentionally made small, and the print was made light, so you really have to look at it. So I'm going to sing it along once, and then ask you to sing with me the second time, and then using this silly little mantra to just go within for a few minutes and dance with the song. Okay? Have a go at it. So, happy am I, healthy am I am the infinite down in my soul. There is no beginning, there is no end. All this I know. Here we go. Happy am I, healthy am I am the infinite down in my soul. There is no beginning, there is no end. All this I know. Dance with your soul. I ask you to rest courageously in the sacredness of your authentic self, your inner, everyday mystic. We can reinvent our spiritual lives with confidence that you can always find refuge from the chaos within your own being. So befriend the unfolding of your body, mind, and soul, including the states of breakdown, ambiguity, mystery, and vulnerability. I want to tell you a little story. Years ago, I was on retreat, and after 3 days or so, there were about 10 of us gathered in a circle, and we were each to express a life-changing mystical experience, something that had transformed us. Several had conversion experiences, how they had wandered from the faith and how God had spoke to them and how they had come back. There were a couple in recovery who told about bottoming out and how the Spirit led them back and how well they were doing in recovery. So around the circle we went, and it was facilitated by a little old Franciscan monk. And he came to a little nun that was part of our group, and to maybe 60 years old. And she said, I've listened intently to all your stories, all the experiences you've had, and nothing like that has ever happened to me in my whole life. When I was 17, I joined convent, I final vows, this, that, whatever. I have given my whole life to Christ and the service of the church, and nothing like that has ever happened to me. And the monk said, that's probably because you didn't need it. That Saul, Paul on the road to Damascus, kinds of experiences, visitations by Mother Mary, the extraordinary tales we read in Scripture happen to some people, but maybe that's because they need it. In my own experience, I've had some startling encounters with the divine, and that's probably because I needed it. So if you have had those, that's wonderful. And I think it's God in no uncertain terms telling you to pay attention. But if you have not had those earth-shaking, transformative lightning strikes, perhaps that means you haven't needed it. God didn't have to work that hard to get your attention, right? Mm-hmm. So there is a hunger for God. In Jungian psychology, Jung talks about the hunger for God, which is the hunger for connection with the something more. The transcendent function is what Jung calls it. We would call it the mystery of God, the force, whatever name you want to give it. But intrinsically, in human nature, embedded in us, and Jung would maintain as essential as the need to survive and reproduce, there is a hunger for a connection with something more, something larger. And that is the basis of all ritual, religion, dance, song, glorification of the dead, burial rituals. All of this comes from our hunger to be touched by the holy. And all of us have been touched by the holy, some in great ways and some in small ways, and probably all of us in both ways. God is a drug. One of my students wrote an essay for me. God is a drug. I hope some of the language used here today will be a little startling or shocking or provocative. And the theology as well may be dubious on some occasions, but once you have been touched by the holy and recognize it, nothing else satisfies. You want more. You hunger for more. So we look for ways to connect with the transcendent, with the mystery, whether in nature, in music, in the sacraments. After all, the Eucharist is an attempt to meet once again the living Christ, right? So that's what sacraments are about. Rituals that have been designed to connect us with the transcendent, with the mystical, to be touched by the holy. Another word I use often is contemplative. Both contemplative and mystical and mystic are in her church history rather grand sounding words. But to me, it's become something much simpler. I am on the lookout for God. The divine is not invisible and is accessible. I want to have a heart that sees that, finding God in all things, as St. Ignatius puts it. And I operate on the assumption that the divine presence is abundantly, lavishly available to us. And I believe it is the very nature of God to manifest love. Being a contemplative means slowing down and lingering a little longer. I think our experiences here this week, to sit by the water, to look at the frog, to hear the voices in the wind, or see the reflections in the water, if you spend a moment more, you are connected to the God of creation. To give thanks for the broken things is the true beginning of humility and the birthplace of forgiveness. And without forgiveness, the planet has no future. That's a quote from someone, and I don't know who. But I think that is also true. Our intimate, small, little connections with the divine give way to something bigger and something larger. And it can be our contribution to changing the world. Let's go back for a moment to the God hunger. If I say I'm a mystic, it is assumed that God's yearning for us precedes and arouses our yearning for God. God wants us as much or more than we want him. So God is constantly showing us an outpouring through creation of his availability. It is our job, it is our mission to slow down, appreciate, and open ourselves to those experiences. Again, great and small. We have to be available. We can say no to God. It means that our desires, our wants, our longings, our outward and inward searching, when uncovered, expresses and recognizes they all lead to the divine beloved. That's a quote from Janet Ruffing, one of my spiritual guides and a great spiritual director. And I think this is found in all the faith tradition, all the great traditions. Kabir who we'll talk more about later, the Sufi mystic of the 15th century, says, when the guest is being searched for, it is the intensity of the longing for the guest that does all the work. The intensity of the longing for the guest does all the work. I believe that mystics are comfortable with paradox. Saint Augustine says, si comprendendis non est God. If you understand him, he is not God, the unknowable. And so I've had to give up the need for certitude. At some point, we no longer need to seek or ask or pray for or meditate on, but simply reflect and ask, how may I be present to receive that abundance? What keeps me from God? Trying to live a contemplative and mystical life is based on my wanting to become truly, authentically me. In the ministry of spiritual direction, those that come before us, I think we see this all the time. What is keeping me from God? My past, my pains, my wounds, the unforgiven. There's a whole battery of things. And in many people, it is their relationship with the church that is keeping them back. Their lack of understanding, their hostility to the institution, or their rigorous black and white, narrow vision of God and the church. Right? We see these people all the time. But back to us, I want to be truly, authentically me. And if we are created in the image of God, we resemble God. And observing how God has providentially been caring for me, anticipating my needs, leads me to imitate the caring for others. I want to be aware and conscious that all is gift. The gift is sometimes big, as in a sudden, unexpected insight, and it's sometimes small and subtle, and I don't want to miss it. One of the things I like about Orthodox theology is they didn't buy in to the idea of original sin, which was really created by St. Augustine. Jesus doesn't talk of that. It became a tradition in the Western Church, how fallen we are, and how only the church can save us. But in Orthodox theology, the message is one of original blessing. Do you not know you are made in the likeness and image of God? And on the third day it was good, and on the fourth day it was good, and on the fifth day it was good. God did not create anything that is not good. And we, as creatures of God, are basically good, not basically fallen. We have all obviously fallen away from the path, and our master and Lord, the teacher, has come to show us the way home. One of the things that Jesus says, if we are to enter the kingdom, we must go as children. So what are children like? They're full of awe and wonder and mystery and joy. Everything is new and beautiful and amazing. They are curious, always curious, too curious. I also think that we as spiritual directors must always remain curious. What did you mean by that? Why did you say that? Say a little bit more. Curiosity is one of the keys to our ministry. And I think that is also applicable for our individual lives. I want to remain curious. And I want to see things with new eyes every day, if possible. Stay awake. It is also characteristic of a contemplative spirituality that the seeker knows when to stop and say, I am content. I think that if we are truly authentic and comfortable in our souls and have forgiven, resolved, dealt with, learned, done the work, we will be able to stop and say, I am content. And if we stop the striving, the struggling, the effort, I think that also opens the door to more connections to the divine. When I am content, again, I have slowed down, and I am aware, and I am open. So when the butterfly flutters by, I am not consumed with my doubts, and I am not obsessed with should, would, could. I am available. So the idea of being content, I think, also contributes to our ability to access the mystical. So what is a mystic? And why has the church always been so suspicious of them? A mystic, and this is my own simple definitions, a mystic is a person that has had an encounter with the divine. One of the characteristics of the mystics is they want to share it. Teresa of Avila, well, any of them, you can, Julian, Thomas Merton in modern times. When they have this encounter with the mystical, with the divine, connection with God, they want to share it. And who's going to stop them? The church. The church is suspicious of mystics because mystics don't need the church. After all, the purpose of religion and the purpose of the church is to connect. They act as the intermediary. It is the priests that go before us, that lead the way and show us and offer us that connection. If we don't need them, then what? So it's only natural that the church would be suspicious of mystics and torture them, interrogate them, incarcerate them, because there is a real question here. How do you know what is genuine? I mean, the Mother Mary has been cited over time again and again and again by hundreds. And how do you discern that this is truly a visitation, or how is this simply the ravings of a madman? So there is a real issue here, but I tend to side with the mystics. They come in great and small, young and old, male and female. I give them the opportunity to show me that their experience was genuine. And I think that is observable. If they're merely sharing the experience, not trying to convert me, to teach me their way, I give them that license. I want to know what they have. I want to know how they got it, how they think they deserve it. My experience has been that no one deserves it. No one worked for it. It's not a degree. It's given as gift, pure gift by God. When needed, yes, definitely. I also believe that the Holy Spirit has a great sense of humor. And from out of the blue, off moments in strange places, never when you would expect it, perhaps we are visited by the Spirit. So I think there is also a joyfulness in it. There's a happiness, there's a sharing of the joy, and a sense of humor. I don't think this has to be dark and serious. I think there is joy in the morning with spiritual, mystical experiences. This is a paraphrase from my friend Richard Rohr, who says, mystics always bring this message in some form. Don't be afraid. They know that it's okay, and finally okay for you as well. They want you to stop fretting and fearing and enjoy divine union now. Enjoy is the operative word. Mystical experience allows you to enjoy your own life. It helps you stop creating enemies and people to be afraid of, and nations that we should punish and kill. When you are enjoying deep union, and union with the divine is the goal of the mystic. Again, the hunger for the guest, the search for the beloved. When you're enjoying that and searching for that, you don't need to create divisions, mistrust, and separation. True spiritual encounter changes your politics, your attitude toward money, your use of time, your relationship towards foreigners and the weak, your attitude towards war and nationalism, because you become a citizen of the big kingdom now. I think he's paraphrasing there, Philippians 3. And afterwards, if you're going to keep pursuing, you have a very different lifestyle. And if you're not ready to change, don't seek God. So once you have a sincere moment of divine union, you grow deeper and deeper in love with creation, with all of creation and all that is around you. It's all about love. It's all about union. It's all about being one with the divine. So, everyday mysticism. Finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. And to do that, we have to claim the whole landscape of your life as holy ground. The ordinariness of mystical experience has taught me that the mystic is not limited to ritual, visitation, or mysterious power. It broadens the scope of your personal identity and includes normal things. Baking bread can be a mystical experience. Making a cup of coffee, drinking a glass of wine, listening to the voices in the wind, or the choirs babbling in the brook. You know, the opportunity for connection is everywhere and all around us, especially in the ordinary, in our daily lives. What we smell, what we feel, what we touch, what we do, we can do it with joy. And that advantage will open the door so that many, many more things become mystical experiences. You are already a mystic. It's already within you. All we have to do is wake it up. Stay awake. Stay alert. Be available. Spirit abundantly surrounding us, filling us everywhere at this hour in this room. Opportunities for connection. Mystery is where you practice the gifts of the Spirit. That means we have to live with ambiguity. I had to give up certitude. I know nothing. And the older I get, the more I realize how little I know and how what I thought I know was a joke. Again, the laughter of the Holy Spirit. I'm not sure of anything anymore. And happy, and it's been a great relief, I might add, not to have to defend those pillars. Karl Rahner talks about, the 20th century Catholic theologian, talks about the mysticism of the masses. And he went to, he talks about charisms and Pentecostalism and dramatic, people that talk in tongues and prophecy, being drunk in the Spirit or slain in the Spirit, in this language of Pentecostalism, which is very alien to me. It's not my way to God. But he called it noisy mysticism. And I like that term. So I think my dancing naked after a shower in the living room with the drapes closed, dancing around, carrying on like this, I think may be a kind of noisy mysticism of my own. I was driving with my son, who came to visit me, and I had some sort of kind of hip hop music on, and we were stopped at the light, and I suddenly started going like this. And I thought, why not? I'm just sitting here at the red light. And he looked at me and said, Dad, stop that immediately. I said, no, why not? It's a body movement, soul. He said, Dad, you look like Trump. Well, that was the end of that. And I was thinking about Trump, in Saudi Arabia with a sword and carrying on. And so anyway, I have my noisy mysticism in quiet, in private, I guess you could say. But to sing along, to dance, to run around the house, to be more like a child. All right. Rahner writes here that I've inhabited those spaces most of my life. If I had a choice between a tall steeple church and a pew in a small storefront worship service in an impoverished neighborhood, I'd pick the storefront, because I know there'd be more happening in the storefront than in the tall steeple church. There'd be mysteries inside those walls. And in Miami, where I live, there are dozens and dozens of small Black churches that have survived in spite of all the damage that my culture and society could do to them. And even if you're driving by on a Sunday morning, you hear the gospel sung and the hands clapping and the joy and connection that they feel one with another. And I would like my church to have more of that in whatever way possible. So one of the reasons I was attracted to the mysticism of the masses is because it reconnects with a type of worship that's very stimulating. And in my work as a cold, chilly academic, when I come home on weekends, I want to visit faith spaces. And I try to find the most mysterious, strange, noisy place that I can find. That doesn't mean that sitting in the grotto can be any less noisy. Sitting here at night, listening to the croaking of the frogs, There's a whole chorus going on sometimes, or the birds that come to feed in the morning. Every ordinary thing is infused with mystery. I'm an everyday mystic, so are you. It's making love with God, seeking the beloved, seeking that union. It's very popular now to talk about dualism and finding union and the unitive experience that many people hunger for are after. God bless them. Thomas Merton on a corner in Louisville, Kentucky, had an amazing unitive experience. It can happen anywhere at any time. Be available and be on the lookout. Maybe your turn is next. But the language of the beloved, making love with God, seeking the beloved, whether it's in Solomon, Ecclesiastics, other of our spiritual writings, is not common. About language of making love with God. I think we can reinvent that and use it more often. We seek the beloved, and the beloved seeks us. And we look to become one with God and union with the beloved. So don't be afraid of that kind of language. It is deeply embedded in our tradition, so, and not to be run away from. So, practice. This is not a solitary way. We all carry within us the everyday mystic. So let's listen to our intuition and to the wonder and mystery of our bodies, because that's where we live now. As Paul tells us, do you not know that the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? If you would honor God, honor the body. In mindfulness training, we have a little exercise called RAIN, R-A-I-N, RAIN. And it's to shift awareness and to help us be awake. So to recognize R is the work of the Spirit in your life and where you are right now. At this moment, recognize, be here. Number 2 is to allow, once we recognize we're here, welcome everything. Push away nothing. And here comes a part of that is self-aversion. What are you hiding? What are you ashamed of? Let it go. It's a false narrative that keeps you from God. I desire, there's nothing wrong with desire. I desire freedom. I want to be intimate with God and go deeper. I should is a constraint. You're narrowing things. I should do this. I should do that. I should change my way. Do away with should. It's just so confining. It doesn't work. It doesn't promote change, growth, or depth. So recognize, be in the now, allow, welcome everything, push away nothing, investigate. This is where we are again. I'm curious. I'm always curious. And I want to access that which is not perfect. I want to investigate my brokenness. What's keeping me from God? What am I consumed with? What's stopping me? What's holding me back? And finally, N, nurture. Nurture self-compassion. Have a tender heart, and particularly for yourself. It's often easier to forgive others than to forgive ourselves. We are fully flawed, fully human. We make mistakes. We'll make more of them. But be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself. Let it go. It does not serve you now, and not as we hope to go into the future. You can't be a good mystic if you're carrying around too much baggage. What are our limitations? Time, energy, love, we have all the time in the world. Use it wisely. Energy, well, only as much as I have today. See what I can do about it tomorrow. Take good care of yourself. Diet, nutrition, rest, self-care, job one. Love. Love needs constant work. Love more, love deeper. Every opportunity. Love, love, love. I find it difficult reading the news to find much to love. It's easy. Hate may be too strong a word, but maybe it's not. If I made a list, there are probably 4 or 5 people I hate. It serves no purpose. It changes nothing. It's not worth it. I'm giving them my energy, my attention. I don't want to see that face in the news again. Turn it off. Don't read it. It doesn't help. Go to places of light, places of change, places of growth. Read stories of wondrous and miraculous things that have happened. Again, children are always a good place to look. After all, they have the doorway to heaven open. I want to be more childlike. You have to be a child to be a good mystic. Let things be as they are. They just are. And if we can accept that, we can be more open. So let's take a minute. What is something that reminded you recently of our interconnectedness? When was your last mystical experience? When did you connect this morning in some small way with the divine? Remember, you're happy, you're healthy, the divine is in you. There is no beginning, there is no end. All this I know. How does your relationship with yourself impact the way you relate with others? This is what we call bi-relationship. The ego, your mind, your relationship with yourself. Do you like you? Do you laugh and play with yourself? Do you tell yourself jokes?
Yes.
See, we're smiling. See? It works. Absolutely do. And how can we foster greater connections with those around us? One way is to share our epiphanies, our moments of connection. You know, when I held this flower this morning, I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. Who can I share this with? I've got to find somebody to share this rose with because it's just amazing, you know. So don't keep the joy to yourself. Don't be afraid to share mystical experiences. Some people might think you're crazy, but others will know whereof you speak. And by sharing your experiences, they may mirror theirs, and it promotes more sharing and more experiences and more encounters. Seeing holiness, the sacred, in the everyday, in everything. That's what we're looking for. That's what we can do. And in our connections, we practice loving kindness. Loving kindness is the ability to gather our attention and really listen to others, even those we've written off as not worth our time. Really listening. This, after all, is what we as spiritual directors do. We create a sacred space, we hold that space, and we listen deeply. So listen to your soul, listen to your experience. As we are all accomplished listeners, listen to yourself. What is your soul saying to you? What is the spirit trying to show you today? Because the spirit is always trying to show us something, always available. We are in abundance. It is everywhere, the God of creation. The wishing of happiness. We're all in this together till the bitter end or the triumphal entry, whichever comes first. Do something every day to promote the mystical. Be on the lookout. Look for a mystical experience, some small inbreaking of the spirit in your life. Because it becomes a practice, it becomes a chain link of your practice. It becomes habit. And spirituality without a prayer life, and this is a kind of prayer life, is empty. We need a healthy prayer life, and this doing something every day mystical practice is a kind of prayer life, and one that we can cultivate and deepen. And when possible, practice with others. Shared experience is very important. So let's take a minute. Thoughts, questions, ideas, additions?
You asked me yesterday.
Please. Come on, Mary.
I just realized that I'm a mystic, and I'm so far from being a mystic.
So what? Right?
So far of being a mystic.
Yeah, you are one, but there's work to be done.
I would say, let God do the work. You said something about doing the work. I would suggest we let God do the work.
Mhm. Okay, good. Let's talk. I meant by that, doing the, I'll call it the psychological work, the willingness to go inside, to do your interior work, to clear out the clutter, the things that keep you from God and keep you from being truly authentic. And you're absolutely right. God has broad shoulders, and the Spirit does the work. I'm counting on it.
Yeah.
If I will be available and out of the way.
So for the work for me is allowing myself to notice
Yes.
that that's there
Mhm.
and saying, come on, Lord.
Yeah, come on. Absolutely, absolutely.
For goodness sake,
And
you
I
know?
think that's a very mystical state of mind. It's not for me to do, it's for me to make myself available.
Yeah.
And then in gratitude to give thanks when I notice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing, that this word mystical, it's not something, it just means hidden.
Mhm,
That's all it means,
mhm,
hidden.
mhm,
It hasn't got some fancy, you know,
mhm.
whatever. It's just
Mhm.
very ordinary.
Right, it has
It's
been
hidden.
rarefied
Yeah.
by our church and the tradition
Over the centuries.
over the century. Yeah,
Well,
we
maybe-
did that to it.
Maybe I
Yeah.
was too late to know what. When I got to have some sort of definition of what I was studying or experience.
Yeah, it's not exceptional. I mean,
No.
that's the point of this morning.
Yeah.
It's us, it's
Yeah.
available to us, it is within in us. So wake up, open it up. Let's have more of it, more abundance in it, don't you think? Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking there at the beginning when you spoke about the little nun that was on the retreat.
Mhm.
And obviously all of you had amazing experiences and she was sitting there. I'm just sitting here like a little nun now. And I'm saying, I don't have any ministry, you know, I mean, I know all you're saying, I can, you know, I can hear it and that, but I feel that it's a constant struggle to I'd say, Lord, like show yourself to me, just a little tiny glimpse, just to, you know, and you said it's people who need it that receive it, but I need it and I don't receive it.
Oh, well, that's what you said. Like that little
Oh,
nun.
that's right.
I think your prayers are answered. I think Christ shows himself, Spirit shows himself to you every day, all the time. In the love of your sisters, in the work that you do, in the place that you live, how you conduct your life. I think God is there and present with you. And I think you should keep appealing. Where are you? Show yourself.
Yeah,
Give me a sign.
but I was just like,
Mother Teresa had a pretty, you know, there are different stages of the spiritual life, are there not? And I mean, you know, there comes a point when, you know, dark night and the senses. And so maybe, you know, we are very blessed to get to the point where God, at John the Cross, God is absent for us. And we don't have a sense of that touch. If that's okay to say.
Sure. Well, in consolation.
Give permission to say it. I'm
No.
saying, let's be careful and to be aware that you know, deep people who have well, John of the Cross is an example. And, you know, we think you said it. We think we might have had an experience of God, but what, you know, God is always beyond.
Well, consolation, desolation, you know, in the Ignatian way of doing things, seeing things. And when God is not speaking and we perceive the absence of God, there again, I think, is a mystical experience. And it is a deepening when in darkness or in shadow or in absence, but is God really gone or have I turned away? That's always my question, you know. Well, if you're not here, where are you? Yeah. But I think that also can be deeply mystical.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It is. It fosters our dependence on God as well.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that it's gone. For me, that's Good Friday. Good Friday, Christ is dead. The light of the world has gone out. What if he didn't come back? Where would we be? So every Easter for me in Holy Week, that is the most solemn day of the year for me. And I repeat again and again, what if he didn't come back? What if there were nothing but darkness? Where would I be? You know, so I think the darkness, the absence, perceived absence of God can be as deep a mystical experience as the bolt of lightning, the great epiphany, those aha moments when things are revealed to you. Maybe the other side of the coin, but the same ongoing love and process. And I think you do have to have a life of faith in order to catalog and reflect upon your experiences. I have secular friends who have extraordinary experiences, who go to ashrams or Buddhist this or some absolutely nothing. And yet they will acknowledge that something met them on the road and changed their life. This happened, that happened, or when their child was born, or their near-death experience, or this or that. So, and I smile and say, aha, spirit at work. And they would not see that. So I think we're gifted with our great tradition, which for 2,000 years, for better and sometimes for worse, has given us a language that we can use to describe what we're talking about here today. Right? Yes?
I have learned at times that when one has such big experience with God, it's good to have it here because it's so personal. It's between God and me. So I understand. I have had very much of this mysticism in everyday life, and I agree. But this of telling that and sharing, there I must think, reflect a little.
Yes, because your experience is unique, designed by the Holy Spirit just for you, to touch you in the way that suits you best. It was made for you, uniquely you, and mine are entirely different. God meets me where I am and who I am. And they are very, very personal. And I don't share a lot of them or many of them. In my own case, I'm thinking perhaps, and this was an opportunity to share a little more. I was reluctant to do this workshop. I don't want to do this workshop. I don't want to sit here and talk about mysticism because it is very personal. And I have been struck by lightning, figuratively speaking, and I have had moments of great transformation, and in times of darkness as well as in places of exuberant joy. So it's been it is a very powerful force in my life and my journey in this life. But there are still many things that I've shared with no one except the Spirit. So yeah. So yes, Fabio.
Thank you, first of all.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Just a couple of things to share. As I listened to you this morning, I woke up and thinking of Sophia, you already know, and Julia. They're my daughter. Sophia is 9, Julia is 6, and I was already planning before I go back home. I have to buy a teddy bear for Sophia from Estonia and a Playmobil. Julia loves to make her own world with Playmobiles. And I just love to play with them. And it is my mystical experience. I learned so much from Sophia and Julia.
Pass these around.
And by contrast, I was sharing with Chris yesterday. Next year, I'm finishing my Master of Divinity, my Master in Theology, and I will say, hey, Chris, next year I'm gonna finish my MD. What do you think about that? I'm gonna master God. Title. But you know, the more I know nothing. It's a great place to be.
Yeah. The more you know, you know nothing.
Nothing.
So
And
that is the
if you
place.
understand him,
Mhm.
not God.
Mhm.
It's a humbling place to be.
Uh-huh.
And
that's okay, isn't it?
is okay.
Not knowing, not being sure,
Yes.
living with mystery.
Yes.
Mhm.
And one last thing is, in our theological classes, everybody asking questions and answering questions, and very often Sophia and Julia come to me asking a precise question, and I say, Daddy doesn't know. And it's about God. It's about things that we discuss in theology, and it's okay to say, I don't know. Thank you, Pastor.
I don't know. So, in closing, I'm going to read, and I'm giving you all a copy of Kabir, 15th century Muslim married man, a mystic and a poet living in India, who was influenced both by the Hindu and Islamic texts, and who spoke of human and divine love as mirrors of one another and pathways to one another. Friend, hope for the guest while you are alive. Jump into experience while you're alive. What you call salvation belongs to the time before death. If you don't break the ropes while you're alive, do you think ghost will do it after? The idea that the soul will join the ecstatic just because the body is rotten, that is all fantasy. What is found now is found then. If you find nothing now, you will simply end up with an apartment in the city of death. If you make love with the divine now, in your next life, you will have the face of a satisfied desire. So plunge into the truth. Find out who the teacher is. Believe in the great sound. Kabir says this: when the guest is being searched for, it is the intensity of the longing for the guest that does all the work. Look at me, and you will see a slave of that intensity. Thank you for sharing this time with me this morning. You're very, very welcome. The little cards that in wallets, pockets, everywhere, just to remind you, a little mantra for the morning. And do share the ecstasy of Kabir. So,